Psychologists note that beneath the performance is cold calculation. The story is carefully rewritten to cast them as noble sufferers, hiding the manipulator behind the mask of the wounded. Some escalate to grand gestures, moving away, quitting jobs, severing ties. These acts are rarely genuine. Psychologists describe them as performances meant to pull attention back, provoke guilt, and feed one final time on pity. And when nothing else works, they attempt to pull you back into the storm. Insults, outrageous claims, reopened wounds. They keep you entangled because hostility itself is a victory. Silence is the true enemy, because to be ignored is the one defeat they cannot endure. Finally, they strike with the weapon they know will cut deepest: your secrets. Psychologists warn that the intimate details you once shared in trust are twisted into instruments of blackmail, gossip, and humiliation. The betrayal is excruciating. It proves that what you offered in vulnerability was never respected, only exploited. And in their desperation, they cling to control through the very exposure of what was once sacred. Some narcissists spiral into reckless indulgence. Stripped of control, they dive headlong into destructive vices: alcohol, drugs, gambling, compulsive spending. Psychologists explain that these behaviors act as fleeting anesthetics, numbing the emptiness for a heartbeat, only to leave chaos and wreckage in their wake. The fallout isn't theirs alone. Everyone around them feels the tremors, as their self-destruction spreads waves of pain far beyond their own collapse. Others rewrite history to protect their fragile egos. They tell anyone who will listen, "I never really loved them," or "I wasn't happy anyway." Psychologists describe this as a shield for pride, but the cost is devastating. By denying the reality of shared moments, they erase genuine connection, reducing entire chapters of life into self-serving fictions. In this revisionist world, you are written out completely. For some, rage escalates into aggression. Not all become physically violent, but psychologists warn that when manipulation fails, anger may morph into threats, intimidation, or even assault. It is the ultimate tactic of desperation, trying to command obedience when charm, deceit, and manipulation have failed. Even when words are absent, the menace lingers, a shadow that haunts victims long after the encounter ends. Silence itself becomes a weapon. The narcissist may vanish abruptly, cutting off communication not to heal, but to punish. Psychologists point out the cruel intent. Leave the other person desperate for answers, haunted by unfinished conversations, caught in a storm of confusion. Disappearing without closure is not moving on. It is a calculated infliction of pain. Bitterness becomes a long-term poison. Even decades later, some narcissists replay old grievances as if they were still raw. Psychologists observe that their inability to release anger traps them in a permanent cage of resentment. While others heal and move forward, they remain chained to a story they refuse to let go, a self-imposed prison of endless hatred. Eventually, collapse strips away the facade. When the supply of attention dries up, narcissists face a truth they have evaded. Their identity rests entirely on illusions. Psychologists explain that instead of seizing this moment for reflection, they often retreat further into denial. Change is never chosen. Destruction is doubled. Their cage is self-made, and they lock themselves inside, refusing to confront reality. The harshest truth emerges when the end is undeniable. Faced with loss, many narcissists refuse transformation. They choose pride over humility, deception over honesty, destruction over peace. In doing so, they confirm the victory of those who walked away. Their story does not end with growth. It ends with isolation, bitterness, and regret. Some cannot let go and descend into obsessive surveillance. They stalk social media, scrutinize photos, hunt for signs of your life without them. Each display of joy, every moment of freedom you claim, becomes proof of their irrelevance. Psychologists note that though this monitoring only deepens their resentment, they persist, clinging to the illusion that you are still tethered to them. Others rush into replacement, leaping from one partner to the next, flaunting new relationships in a desperate bid to project strength. Psychologists emphasize that these hurried connections are not about intimacy. They are props in a performance, shields against a void that never truly closes, an attempt to mask loss with the illusion of desire. Some weaponize friends and shared connections, spreading rumors, manipulating narratives, forcing people to choose sides. Psychologists highlight the cruelty of this tactic. It isolates the target from their support network. Yet over time, patterns reveal themselves. True friends begin to see through the chaos, growing weary of the endless manipulation. And in that recognition, the narcissist unwittingly exposes their own unraveling. Others retreat into elaborately constructed fantasy worlds. When reality becomes unbearable, psychologists observe that they rewrite history in their minds. They replay old arguments with imagined victories, picture triumphs that never happened, or fantasize about revenge. In this retreat from truth, they abandon the present entirely. Confrontation, which could set them free, is replaced by illusions that keep them trapped in denial. And then there are the narcissists who step into the spotlight with amplified bravado. They post louder, boast more, and fill their feeds with vacations, possessions, curated successes, a public spectacle designed to scream control, even as their inner world crumbles. Psychologists explain that every display of bravado, every theatrical gesture, is a mask meant to project confidence. But the irony is devastating. The harder they try to prove their worth, the more brittle they appear. Each performance cracks under the weight of insecurity. The mask no longer conceals the emptiness beneath, it only illuminates it. Some spiral into exaggerated martyrdom. They cast themselves as the ultimate victims, declaring, "I gave everything, and this is my reward." Psychologists note that these tales of sacrifice are inflated, designed to extract pity and validate their suffering. Yet the truth lurks beneath the drama. Nothing was ever given freely. Every act of generosity was a tool of control, twisted into self-victimhood when it no longer served their purpose. Even in collapse, manipulation remains their weapon. Verbal violence becomes a sharp, calculated assault. When charm falters and subtlety fails, psychologists warn that narcissists strike with words meant to wound at the core, attacking appearance, intelligence, even personal worth. Each insult is deliberate, crafted to leave lasting scars. Yet beneath the venom, their attacks betray more about their unraveling than about the person they target. Silence transforms into a weapon. Some vanish without explanation, cutting all communication. Psychologists stress that this is not an act of peace, it is punishment. It is designed to leave others twisting in doubt, replaying memories in search of answers that will never come. This silence is not closure. It is a final, cruel assertion of control, a refusal to face accountability. Collapse often drives them toward addiction. Alcohol, drugs, gambling, compulsive habits, all temporary escapes from the gnawing emptiness within. When they realize it's all over, narcissists will do something truly terrifying. There comes a chilling moment, the point when the narcissist finally realizes the truth. It's over. The mask they've worn for years begins to splinter. The power they once clutched so tightly slips through their fingers. The audience that fueled their ego evaporates. Psychologists call this moment devastating. It shatters the illusion they have spent a lifetime carefully constructing. And in the wreckage of that illusion, the actions that follow can leave wounds that echo long after the encounter has ended. First comes rage, a fury so intense it consumes everything in its path. Psychologists call it a narcissistic injury, a violent eruption triggered by the loss of control. They lash out with venom, turning words into weapons, launching smear campaigns, and trying to scorch everything that once reflected their image. They would rather burn the world around them than face the humiliation of defeat. And yet, ironically, this fury only reveals how much control has already slipped from their grasp. When rage fails, manipulation takes center stage. The same person who screamed with hatred may suddenly appear soft, apologetic, even broken. Psychologists call this hoovering, a desperate bid to pull you back into their orbit. But these tears are calculated, these apologies hollow. They prey on compassion, pretending transformation while secretly plotting the next move. If hoovering falters, they play the victim. Suddenly, the narrative flips. They recast themselves as the one wronged, weaving stories of abandonment and betrayal so convincing that outsiders may believe them. The real victim, the one who escaped, suddenly finds their truth silenced, their reality doubted, their pain invalidated. Sympathy is stolen. Isolation becomes a weapon. Sabotage is next. Once they realize the ending is real, narcissists often strike, aiming to ruin the lives of those who walked away. Experts describe smear campaigns, financial traps, and courtroom battles as tools in this war. Their goal is simple: punish the one who reclaimed their freedom. If control is lost, destruction becomes the consolation prize. They may also dig into the past, weaponizing trust itself. Secrets shared in confidence are twisted into tools of blackmail or gossip. Every vulnerability once offered becomes ammunition. Every moment of intimacy is transformed into a reminder that giving to them came at a cost. Some collapse into despair, but even this despair is a weapon. Psychologists note manipulative self-pity, crying, threatening, hinting at self-harm, not as authentic pain, but as chains designed to ensnare you, to force guilt, to trap you in indecision between compassion and liberation. Other times, they spiral into reckless abandon. Binging, reckless spending, shallow relationships. These are not signs of healing. They are screams of desperation, attempts to drown out the reality of their defeat. They would rather destroy themselves, dragging others into chaos, than face the truth of their loss. Then comes triangulation. They pit people against each other, flaunt new partners, provoke jealousy, turn everyone into a competitor for attention long after the relationship is over. It is calculated cruelty, designed to unsettle and destabilize. Perhaps most unsettling is their refusal to let go. They reappear suddenly, messages, rumors, insertions into your life meant to haunt, to remind you of their lingering presence. Psychologists emphasize, this inability to accept closure is a reflection of their powerlessness, not their persistence. And when their familiar tactics fail, they escalate. Boundaries are pushed beyond imagination. Stalking, harassment, relentless intrusion. Each act a desperate bid to prove influence when none remains. The more powerless they feel, the more dangerous, erratic, and frightening their behavior becomes. Even from afar, they wield one of their cruelest weapons: gaslighting, rewriting history, denying events, twisting reality. Every recollection becomes suspect, every memory tainted. Even in separation, they strive to control perception, to bend truth to their fractured narrative. The terrifying reality is this: the more they lose control, the more ruthless and inventive their tactics become. And yet, for those who step into clarity, who refuse to be drawn back into the storm, these acts, however painful, are proof of something remarkable. The narcissist's power over you is gone. The chaos is theirs alone. Psychologists reveal a disturbing truth. Narcissists will often whisper, "That never happened," or insist, "You imagined it." These words don't just erase your experience. They chip away at your credibility, isolating you from anyone who might have stood by your side. And the damage runs deeper still. In families, in co-parenting situations, even children can become pawns. They may manipulate kids to resent the other parent, or pressure relatives to choose sides, demanding loyalty as if it were a weapon. The chaos they create ensures that long after the relationship ends, you remain drained, while they continue to feed on the conflict they orchestrated. Financial sabotage is another chilling tactic. For a narcissist, money is never neutral. It is leverage, a tool of domination. Psychologists note that they may cut off support, create unnecessary debt, or destroy resources simply to assert control. Independence threatens them, so they would rather see both sides sink than admit they no longer have the reins. Their actions reveal a terrifying truth: destruction matters more than justice. Some go further, following you relentlessly. Social media becomes surveillance, friends and acquaintances are interrogated, sometimes even physical stalking occurs. Psychologists emphasize that this obsession is fueled by rage at your ability to thrive without them. And yet, every step you take forward only deepens their fury, confronting them with a terrifying reality. You are moving on, and they cannot stop you. When rage isn't enough, smear campaigns emerge. Psychologists describe these as deliberate, poisonous assaults on your reputation. False accusations, twisted truths, painting themselves as the injured party while portraying you as unstable, cruel, or dangerous. And the cruelest part, they can be terrifyingly convincing. Some believe their lies, leaving you not just wounded, but forced to fight for your very credibility. Destruction can take a more intimate form. Photographs burned, gifts thrown away, objects damaged. These are not acts of closure, they are acts of revenge. Psychologists point out the intention is clear. Erase the past, punish you for breaking free, and rewrite the story so that your memories themselves feel tainted by their fury. Then comes the spectacle of replacement. New partners paraded online, new loves broadcasted for all to see. Comparisons are drawn deliberately, meant to sting, to provoke jealousy. Psychologists explain the truth. It isn't love. It's performance. A desperate bid to reclaim control, to prove they are still desired, even as their grip slips further away. In extreme cases, revenge turns reckless. Baseless legal claims, rumors spread like wildfire, conflicts ignited in workplaces. Psychologists warn that narcissists will risk everything to prove they are not powerless. It is not justice they seek, it is annihilation. When aggression fails, they fall back into victimhood. I gave everything, and they ruined me, they proclaim, earning sympathy with every word. Psychologists explain that these vices never heal. They accelerate decline, deepen isolation, and entrench self-destruction. Their refusal to confront reality exposes the depth of their fear, the terror of facing truths that could free them. Displaced rage emerges next. When they lose direct control, psychologists observe narcissists venting fury on those least able to defend themselves: children, co-workers, friends. By spreading pain outward, they chase a fleeting sense of power, while in truth, every act only underscores how powerless they've become. Some feign transformation. They post about growth, attend therapy sessions, or claim sudden self-awareness. Psychologists caution that this is often performance, a mask of progress without substance. Without genuine accountability, no real change occurs. Their healing is another act, a stage set to win sympathy while the core remains untouched. Paranoia seeps in. They imagine betrayal everywhere, suspect conspiracies in ordinary interactions. Psychologists explain that this fear is projection. Because they have lied so often, they assume everyone else lies too. The result is a self-imposed prison of suspicion, a mind locked in relentless vigilance. Envy corrodes from within. Watching former partners thrive becomes unbearable. Psychologists note that each success is a mirror reflecting failure, each achievement a reminder of freedom they cannot claim. Instead of joy, they stew in resentment, comparing, cursing, obsessing. Their inability to celebrate others only deepens despair. Some grow addicted to revenge fantasies. Psychologists describe these loops of imagined vengeance as consuming and self-binding. Every scenario of teaching a lesson traps them further in the past, feeding obsession while power slips away to the very people they seek to punish. Their desire for retribution becomes self-inflicted imprisonment. Emotional instability swings between extremes. One moment, arrogance and grandiosity. The next, despair and collapse. Psychologists emphasize that these dramatic fluctuations are not growth. They are unraveling. Their volatility spreads chaos to anyone nearby. Without constant validation, balance is impossible, leaving them adrift between inflated pride and hollow emptiness. Finally, finances become a battlefield. When affection and manipulation falter, narcissists weaponize money, cutting support, sabotaging agreements, destabilizing security. Psychologists highlight that for them, money is not responsibility but a tool of domination, a lever to impose control where other means have failed. In the short term, Their grasp for control inflicts deep wounds, leaving chaos and fear in its wake. But time has a way of revealing the truth. Their strategies, built on manipulation and cruelty, ultimately implode. Bitterness consumes them from the inside, while those they tried to break rebuild stronger, proving that independence cannot be chained by spite. Some lash out with reckless stunts, desperate to reclaim attention. Psychologists remind us that for narcissists, attention is like oxygen, essential to their survival. When their influence fades, they perform, they humiliate, they provoke, anything to remain seen. The irony is brutal. These desperate acts rarely earn admiration. Instead, they strip away credibility, exposing vulnerability beneath the bravado. Yet even ridicule is better than invisibility in their eyes. They would rather be notorious than ignored, clinging to chaos instead of facing the quiet truth of emptiness. At the core of every unraveling lies their greatest refusal: accountability. Healing begins with ownership, yet narcissists recoil at the thought. They deflect, they blame, they weave lies into elaborate tapestries to avoid admitting fault. Psychologists emphasize that this stubborn refusal to confront reality seals their fate. Without accountability, transformation is impossible. All that remains is a relentless loop of the same destructive patterns, repeated until only ruin is left behind. Eventually, emptiness catches up with them. The silence of abandoned relationships, the absence of trust, the evaporation of support, all converge in a harsh reckoning they can no longer avoid. Psychologists explain that this is the true ending: isolation. While those who survive their abuse rise, rebuild, and grow stronger, the narcissist sits amid the ruins of their own making, haunted by the truths they denied for so long. And when the final realization hits, that it is truly over, their instinct is not repentance but desperate clinging to lies, to control, to destruction. But here lies the liberation for you. Psychologists stress that their burden is never yours to bear. Your victory comes in stepping away, refusing to engage, and choosing a life untouched by their chaos. The ending may sting, but freedom, real, unshakable freedom, is far richer than remaining chained to the collapse of someone else.